Good morning, afternoon, and evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my Week 7 preview of CFL action. So let's get right into this. I'm going to waste no time. Actually, make sure you like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. We'll put that in there first. Anyways, I'll get us into our first game. That'll be Calgary versus Hamilton. All right, as you saw last week, Bo Levi Mitchell is back, and he is in full gear. I gotta say, I was not expecting quite that recovery, just because of how weak he looked at the start of the season. He didn't look like he could get much of anything. I thought Mayer was going to be the guy moving forward, but with one game at Mitchell at the helm, he's shown that he is that true for that starting quarterback for Calgary, and You know what? I even think that with the close game that Hamilton has against Toronto, I feel like that kind of gives them a little bit of a kick in the boot on their confidence. I think as much as it was a close game, Toronto did expose a little bit of the issues that Hamilton had in their system, which at the end of the game, when a game is that close, those little mistakes will cost it. And one thing that I think is going to be crucial in this game is how strong that Calgary defense looked this past week, and I think we're going to see that continue. And Calgary has one of the best kickers in the league, and I think that they're going to continue. And because of that, I think Calgary is going to continue with their momentum, and I think Calgary is going to win this game, which is going to bring us into our next game, which is Toronto versus Saskatchewan. All right. 2 weeks, no touchdowns. I cannot imagine that this Saskatchewan team is not hungry out of they are starving themselves for. They're going to be in this. They're going to be so hungry for everything. I have no doubt in my mind that Saskatchewan this game, after 2 losses to Winnipeg, one of them which I think was kind of embarrassing in the sense of no touchdowns 2 weeks in a row. Having your own building shut up and then going into the loudest building in the CFL and not being able to make them even whimper for a bit, they got to be pissed off, and they got to go into this game with the intent of absolutely destroying the Toronto Argonauts here. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Toronto's going to play awesome, and I think they're going to have a really strong game against Saskatchewan. And I think this game, I'm giving the slight edge to Saskatchewan. I'm going to say that Saskatchewan pulls out here. However, I think we're talking a 1-2 point game that's decided in the last minute. I think it's going to be that close between these two teams, but I do think Saskatchewan will get their first win in the 3 weeks since they've been back from the break, actually, now thinking about it. And that will bring us into our next game, which is BC versus Montreal. So a bit of an interesting duo with this one. Obviously, Montreal coming off their break week against BC with a huge game this past week as they dismantled the Redblacks in every possible way. And I think that BC, this can go one of 2 ways. Either BC gets overconfident from this and they get used to being able to play that crappier team and really run up the score, or they're going to take that momentum and that great game that they had and apply that to harder teams and being able to really just pound through adversity, even though they didn't really encounter any last game. I think that's what's going to happen. I think that after this huge win over Ottawa that they had, they're just going to keep going with it. I do think that, surprisingly, I think the break week is going to hurt Montreal because it helps some teams. It helped Hamilton. However, it doesn't help every team. Look at Saskatchewan. They lost 2 games in arguably embarrassing fashion after their break week. So I don't think it helps Montreal. I think it hurts them. I think Burnham is going to be a star this game. I think this is going to be his best game. And we've seen some really incredible performances from him this week, this season, sorry. And him and Lucky Whitehead, like I've always been saying. But those are the 2 guys that always stand out every game. And I think Burnham in particular this game, I think he is going to be the difference maker. And I think BC is going to win this game. And that will bring us into our last game of the weekend, Winnipeg versus Edmonton. All right, the now newly Edmonton Elks versus the defensive juggernaut that is the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. So how do the Bombers do after coming out 2 games against the Roughriders? With how huge these wins are, not even just for reasons in the standings or reasons that Saskatchewan is regarded as one of the best teams, but I mean, they're our damn rivals, and we kick the shit out of them. I think that I don't know if Edmonton's going to be able to contain this. I think Trevor Harris is going to have a lot of issues trying to get this Edmonton offense going. I expect Edmonton to really start getting into gear. I feel like it's going to be a close first quarter. I think Bombers might have a 1 touchdown lead. I suspect that Edmonton in the third quarter, they're really going to get something going, and then I expect the Bombers to shut them down in the fourth quarter. That's how I think it's going to go. The offense looked great this past week. I thought this was one of the stronger weeks for the Bombers' offense. Edmonton, I think in this game, they have a good team, as they've shown. They've shown later into the season, not the start of the season. We're going to forget about that Edmonton team. But I think they're just outmatched. I think they're going to have a good game. The Bombers, I think, are going to run into this problem of making teams that are not as good as them look good. Talking about that game against Calgary. You know what I mean, Bombers fans. But I think Winnipeg is still going to win this, and that's how I think this next weekend of CFL action is going to go. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Check out my other video with the Week 6 reviews, as well as my Bombers Banjo Bowl reaction. Holy crap, it's almost at 900 views, which is like almost 5 times what we normally get on that. So check that out if you haven't already. It's such a fun video. I absolutely love making those ones. They're by far the most fun ones to make, just because I get to go to the stadium and see the game, rep my team. So make sure you check those out if you haven't already, and I'm gonna see you guys later. Check it. Take care. Watch my next one.